Hey guys, this is your friendly Captain Obet again. This is part 2 of my series on airline operations that I've been talking about. You probably watched part 1 that I did when I was on the ground in Taipei, I think it was. So in part 2 I'm going to talk about certain things like expectations and age and what's expected of you and what you can expect when you join an airline. So we've just landed in Penang from Singapore. We've flown in from Hong Kong to Singapore and Singapore to Penang. So I'm in the passenger cabin of the 747-400, and the first thing I'm going to talk about now is expectations. So when you graduate at the flying college, what are you expecting when you join the airline? What are your expectations? What do you think an airline is? What do you think it's like to work in an airline? Well, first things first, you'll be working with people from all sorts of backgrounds. You'll be joining an airline, for example, Cathay Pacific, which has more than 70 nationalities all working within the company. You'll be working with people of different genders, of course, and you'll be working with people of different ages. And just remember, if you're from flying college, you're coming in at, say, age 22, 23, maybe having graduated from college, and you'll be flying with people that are 50, 60 years old, and these people are as old as your father or as old as your mother, as the case may be. Do you call them sir? Do you call them captain? Do you call them mister? What is it? And different airlines have got different standards. In general, in Cathay Pacific, for example, if you're not sure, you must address a captain by just calling him captain. If you're not sure of what to say, just call him captain so-and-so. If it's a fellow second officer, first officer, whatever, you just call him by name. In general, in Cathay Pacific, we try and keep the gradient as flat as possible. So captains here are just generally called by their first name. But protocol says, if, for example, an outsider comes in, for example, a passenger comes up or an engineer comes to talk to you to explain a particular malfunction or a particular problem he has to resolve, and he approaches you and you're the second officer or the first officer and you're the most junior, for example, you would say, I'll have to talk to the captain first, as opposed to calling him or her by the first name. So that's the culture you're going to have to get used to. So when you come in, speak to other people that are of the same rank as you are, find out what the general culture is within the airline. Next thing, of course, is there's different religions and people of different religions and backgrounds. You'll have to respect that, and you'll get the respect back as well, because this is an airline and there's thousands of people working for it. So those are the things you have to deal with as well. So I've got Brett here that I've just flown with. He's just joined us, as I said to you before, from the 777. Brett, what were your expectations when you joined an airline? What were you expecting when you joined an airline?
My background, after I finished flight college, I flew for a small charter outfit, flying small 8-passenger planes, doing cargo runs and charters, and then moved up. And then when I came to an airline, I guess at first I was expecting to have to put in a lot of work, because there's a lot to learn to fly a big wide-body jet. It's quite different from a small aircraft. But also with the airlines, you get very high-quality training from very experienced pilots that have been doing the job for many, many years. But they do expect high standards, so you do need to put in quite a bit of work. There's a lot of manuals to read on standard operating procedures, which would be completely different if you're flying a single pilot for a small cargo outfit or have come straight from flight school, because now you're operating with a multi-crew environment. So you need to learn the standard procedures so that everyone gets what they expect at the right time, and especially when you're working, as Obet said, with many nationalities. So you have a set of procedures so everyone knows what the standard is. So initially when you first start, there's a lot to learn, but if you put in the work and you do the time, once you get past that, it's really good fun. You really get to relax and enjoy the new life.
Yeah.
And get to see the world.
So that's Brett, who's just explained his bit as far as what he expected. The main thing here, I think, from what Brett just said, is you've got to put the work in. You're now treated as an adult, you're professional, and you're expected to just slot in to people who are professionals already in the airline. They expect you to come up to speed as soon as you can. There's going to be a lot of work in the first 3 or 4 months, because you're going to have to do things like a conversion course, learn the standard procedures of an airline, but also you're going to have to settle into the new company, and also maybe a new country. You might actually have to go to a different country. the important thing I want to say to you guys is that coming in as the most junior person maybe on the aeroplane on a particular flight doesn't mean you're less intelligent. Okay? The difference between you and maybe like somebody like me that's an senior instructor on the 747 is that I am more experienced. I'm not more intelligent. You're probably more intelligent than I am. The difference between you and I is simply because I've got the experience. That's what tells us apart. But don't come here thinking the most senior people on the aeroplane are the most intelligent. It's a completely different thing. The most senior on the aeroplane are simply more experienced than you are, and you have got just as good an intelligence as we all have. So use that intelligence to come up to speed, keep learning every day, and you'll be fine with it. So we'll go outside and I'll talk about something else that's to do with this topic later. Hi, we're outside here. We've just landed in Penang, Boeing 747-400, and I want to talk about the glamour of flying. Hi guys, I'm in the main deck cabin of the 747-400, and they're doing some offloading behind me there. What I want to talk about now is about this glamour thing about flying. It's not all glamour, you know. It's hard work, and it's also rewarding once you've done the hard work and you relax. You fly to different places and you're going to go to hotels and so on, but it's not just about that. It's about being respectful and being particularly efficient in getting things done. So if you want to enjoy the glamour of the job, it's not about going to hotels and having a great time. It's actually about getting an aeroplane from A to B efficiently and safely. You see, I've got my uniform on here. You've got to be proud to wear your uniform. Just now upstairs somebody said my tie was a little bit askew, but you get what I'm saying. You must wear the symbols of your profession. Put your epaulets on, put your tie on, look smart, your hat on, and that's what the glamour is all about. Behind all the nice clothes and nice uniform and so on is a professional that's actually thinking all the time about the safety of the operation and the safety of passengers, the safety of the aircraft. And it's not just about passenger aircraft only. Cargo aircraft like this one can crash into buildings and destroy buildings and kill people on the ground that have got nothing to do with the aeroplane. So you've got to be as professional as you would be on any aeroplane. So that's what it's about. It's not just about looking good. It's about being professional and holding to the high standards that is expected of you by people on the ground and people that you fly as well. And of course the company that's entrusting you with this large aircraft that you're going to fly from A to B. Next we're going to talk about age. Hi guys, so on the flight deck, the last bit here, I've just decided to ask Rafael, who's the senior first officer, is just doing his pre-flight. Rafael, just very quickly, what were your expectations when you joined an airline? What were you expecting to get out of an airline?
Well, I was expecting to have a stable career by joining Cathay Pacific and be able to fulfill my childhood ambition of becoming an airline pilot and being able to fly to the numerous cities around the world in Cathay's network, and generally to have a good life.
And stable career?
Stable career. That's the main thing. Yeah.
Yeah, good. So that was Rafael. He's doing his pre-flight. I get a number of you asking me whether it's okay to go into flying when you're 35 or 40. Now, I've said it before. About 2 years ago, I did a short clip on age, and what I'll say is the retirement age for most companies is now 65 years old, and in some companies there isn't one. In some countries, so long as you're medically fit and physically fit, you can continue to fly and hold your license. Let's assume that the retirement age as it is here is 65. Now, if it's 65, if I decided at 35 I wanted to go and train to be a pilot, the initial course is about, let's say, 2 years, and then you join an airline, and then you've got to build up the hours. What do companies think about somebody that's a little bit older? I've said it before. For somebody that's a little bit older, approaching 40 say, most companies will say, the question they'll ask is, why has he or she left it so late? What they'll be looking at is, are you coming into flying because you've been unsuccessful at some other profession that you were doing before? and you're trying to give your hand at flying to see if you'll be good at it. In other words, you're just trying it because whatever career your profession you were doing hasn't been successful. So the companies that I know of will look at somebody that's a mature student or mature person, as it were, to say, okay, this person wants to come into flying and this person's 40 and they've just qualified as pilots. Why is it they left it so late? They'll ask you, for example, in an interview, what is it you've been doing for you to actually do it so late? And you might say, oh, well, I've been an accountant, or I've been a school teacher, I've been working in engineering somewhere, I've been a medical doctor. There are doctors who've changed careers. So if, for example, I was interviewing you and you told me that you want to be a pilot because it's something you've always wanted to do, and you went and did medical school, or you went and did something else, became a lawyer for some years because you couldn't get into flying school, and then you managed to raise the money to train, and as a result of that you only managed to train much later, I'd ask you, what are you doing now? And if you said to me, well, I'm still a lawyer, I'm working for this firm, or I'm still an accountant, or I'm still doing whatever, but I'd really like to join the airline, and I would leave my current job now to join Cathay Pacific, British Airways, whatever it is, I'll leave it now. To me, that tells me you actually want to do this, because you're leaving a high-paid job and you're stable in a career, and you want to change professions simply because you want to do this. So that's what tells me you're into it. But if you failed at something and we determine that maybe you haven't been successful at it, most companies will look at it and say, no, this person's just trying to give a go at flying to see if they'll be successful at it. They're not doing it because necessarily they always wanted to do it, if you see what I mean, that sort of thing. So that's what age is. If you got in at the age of 40 into an airline, remember, retirement age of 65 still gives you 25 years of a career. In that time, in an airline, you become a captain, you can become an instructor, just like I am. So don't worry about the age. If you're 40, you can still get in. Let's say you graduate at 45, that still gives you 20 years of a career. Don't be disheartened. Go and do it if that's what you want to do. And if it's really what you want to do, do it. Remember, it's not just about you, it's about your family. Are you going to be able to stop doing what you're doing and bringing in money to look after a family, if you do have one, for 2 years to do the training course? And at the end of it, you may not be guaranteed a job for maybe a year or a few months. So be prepared for that side of it too. Make sure that they are comfortable with your decision. That's my advice to you. So go for it later.